In this session, we will be talking about how you can master the timing of your Amazon PPC ads to target your customers in the best possible way. This strategy is called Dayparting, and it allows you to control when your Amazon ads appear to target your customers during the time period when they're most likely to make a purchase. And today, my guest will be Ritu Java from PPC Ninja, who has some great tips to share with you about this strategy. So let's welcome her here today with me. Hi, Ritu. How are you doing?
Hey, Lisette, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Very great. You have been to our channel before for webinars and also for other video recordings, and your videos are always very, very popular because you go straight to the point, you share what you know, so others could basically use the same strategies, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I try to do that as much as I can. So yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, so as always, we usually start with the introduction because today as well, we might have people here watching us live who are not so familiar with your background in Amazon space. So could you
Yeah,
shortly introduce yourself and let us know what PPC Ninja is also doing to help Amazon sellers?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I have been in the e-commerce space for about 10 years or so. I used to be an Etsy seller, and that's when I kind of, got into e-commerce and learned about advertising and marketing. And I'm an engineer by background, so this was like a completely different type of venture for me. But then, fast forward to today, I'm basically so deep into PPC. I've been the CEO of PPC Ninja since 2019. And we are a software and service provider for Amazon ads. And so we have a self-serve platform, which hundreds of users are using to get lots of benefits from their PPC optimization. And then we also have the services side where we actually go in and manage your account for you, because there's so much to learn with PPC, and it's hard to keep up with all the changes and all the new things that Amazon throws at us. So we're a professional organization that specializes in Amazon advertising.
Okay, sounds good. And that's why, yeah, you have been recording a lot of different types of PPC videos as well. And usually, of course, one of the main questions sellers have about PPC is like, how can I get more from the same for the same budget, or how can I stop wasting my money and use it more efficiently? So day parting is definitely one strategy they can use to do it. So how we will do today, Ritu has prepared some slides for us to go more into the details. But if you're watching us live and you have any questions for her regarding this strategy, leave them in the chat box because we're going to come back to those questions soon. And then Ritu will also answer. And of course, if you like what she's sharing and you enjoy this webinar, don't forget to like this video and also subscribe to our Orange Klik YouTube channel because then you will see more webinars like this in the future. So yeah, Ritu, I think you can share your screen with us and we
Yeah,
can go straight to the presentation.
yeah. Let me do that right now. Okay. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, awesome. All right, so yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into day parting, and I know this is a very interesting topic for a lot of people. It's also a little bit of a controversial topic because there's two schools of thought. One that says, hey, even if your ads are showing, in the middle of the night, and if someone is uh, seeing your ad and clicking on it, they probably want to buy it. And therefore, it's okay to kind of allow that, customer to explore your ads and explore your brand. But then there's the other school of thought which says, hey, in those hours of night, like middle of the night, or let's say some brands that don't sell really well on Saturdays and Sundays, um, why should we run ads at a higher CPC when it doesn't make sense? These shoppers are not likely to convert as well as shoppers in other hours of the day. So there's that kind of controversy, and people have like different opinions about this. But what I'm planning to do here is to show you like just the whole um, you know range of opportunities we have with day parting, and then you can choose what works the best for you. Okay, so before I get into all those details, let me just talk a little bit about what is day parting, so that anybody who doesn't really understand it or understand the historical reason for day parting, this will become hopefully clarifying for you. So day parting is this idea that there are certain shoppers that you can reach at certain hours of the day when they are most receptive to seeing your ad. So let me translate that into the TV world, right? So uh, let's say you're having breakfast in the morning, you're watching your morning shows or whatever. Um, and then you're served an ad for something that is to do with your cereal, yummy cereal or sugar-free cereal or something like that. It's likely to register much better than if you talk about, let's say, wine, for example. So it would be like wrong targeting if you're talking about wine, like first thing in the morning, like the best wines to have and stuff like that. So there's a time for everything. While, it's quite possible that someone is so into wine that they'll say, okay, I'll take that ad in the morning, first thing in the morning. But you get what I'm saying. There's a certain hour of day when people are more in tune with the ad shown. And so that's how traditionally day parting was done. It was basically done by TV channels and media channels controlling the hour of day when they felt an ad was going to be the most impactful, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with running those ads in other times of the day. It's just that you won't get the same kind of result. You may not get the same attention. You may not get the same, in Amazon's world, the same CPC. You might get a worse CPC in those hours. And that's why you want to be mindful of what hour of the day is best suited for your products. Now, hour of day is one thing, but then there's also day of week. Some brands are mostly business focused brands, and their customers are shopping between Monday and Friday. And Saturdays and Sundays tend to be the slow days. People are maybe looking at ads, but they're not in the mode where they might, shop right away. Maybe they register your brand and maybe come back to it later, but that's just a maybe. They may not, right? That makes the ad a little bit less effective, uh, because you're betting on someone taking action uh, based on their memory of you. Or if, let's say, you're a brand that is very memorable, then maybe it might serve as like a continuous reminder that, hey, Coke is something that you want to enjoy. But that's not the case for business buyers. Saturday, Sundays are the day when they're not looking at work-related stuff. So again, for those sorts of brands, being a little bit more conservative with your ad spend on the weekends might give you that extra budget that you can then channel to those hours of the day and week that you can get a little bit better result, right? So your dollar can be stretched further, right? When you repurpose that same dollars that you're spending on the Saturday and Sunday, if you use that same money and use it during the week, you're likely to get much better results. So it's just a matter of like thinking about like, when do I want to spend this money? Should I really spend like $3 or $4 per click during the weekend, or should I spend just $2 or $3 per click during the weekday and get better results? Okay, so that's generally the idea of day parting. Now, in Amazon's world, day parting takes on another flavor, and that's basically these two things that you're seeing on the screen. Number one, that budgets get reset at 12 midnight. So, while in the traditional world, there's no such concept of budgets getting like reset at a particular time. They're just slotting their ads into the best time of the day that they think their shopper is available mentally. But when budgets get reset, what tends to happen is that at those hours of midnight, Amazon will start showing your ads and at higher CPCs. So you tend to have like higher CPCs in the middle of the night for some reason because they want to spend. And then a lot of people report this that, by 8 a.m. in the morning, their budget is already consumed. So that's unfortunate because, nobody really bought. They saw your ad, but they clicked around. They weren't really in the mode for buying. And so you've wasted your money by spending maybe double of what you would spend during the day and get the advantage of more clicks with the same amount of money. So that's basically the Amazon kind of twist on day parting. And so therefore it becomes important for us to be mindful of like when we should be spending our money. Now I want to show you some examples of like performance at different hours of the day. So here is a conversion rate chart between 12 a.m. and then 12 midnight, so the whole 24-hour cycle. As you can see here for this brand, it shows that between 4 a.m. and about 1 p.m. you had like elevated conversion rate, and then after that the conversion rate itself started to drop off. Same thing in the morning, it was slowly picking up like from 12 a.m. Through 4 a.m. the conversion rate was slowly inching up, but then it drops up pretty sharply after 1 p.m. So what does this tell us? Conversion rate basically means the formula is orders divided by clicks, right? So the amount of orders that you can get for the same number of clicks, that's higher in this middle band, right? So you can stretch your money a little bit further because you need fewer clicks to make the same amount of sales, right? And so you're able to kind of optimize. If you can optimize for the best conversion rate hours, that actually lets you stretch your dollar further. Now here's another view of the 24-hour window, which is ACOS, right? We're looking at ACOS being the worst between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., and then being the best during these hours in the middle of the day, and then again creeping up to becoming really, really bad. So again, like I said, if you can channel the amount of money you're spending in these off hours and bring them over to the middle of the day, then you can stretch your dollar further. Now here's one for day of week. So conversion rate on day of week. Sundays here and Saturdays are below the average line here. So again, it shows that for this example, I'm showing the conversion rates aren't that great on weekends. So again, you can make some adjustments. And then again, I'm going to look at the day of week ACOS, and you can see clearly that ACOS tends to be above 20%, which is the average through the week, and it's even touching about 40% on the weekends. So again, these are all potential savings opportunities, and we're going to look at how we can do that. The example I'm showing here is basically saying that, hey, if we could cut out the spend that we're utilizing on these weekends, like Saturday and Sunday, and then move that over to the rest of the week, then you would basically essentially save this money and use it where it does, much better. Now, before we jump to any conclusions about what time of day is best for us, we've actually got to dig into the data to search for it and actually know for ourselves, what are the worst and best hours of the day and the week. So to do that, it's very convenient now actually, because Amazon has started providing hourly data, which you can access from your sponsored product advertising reports. So if you go into sponsored products and then you go into campaigns, that's the only report that has hourly data. So you've got to select campaign, not keyword, not search term. It has to be the campaigns report. So you pick up your campaigns report, and then automatically this time unit selection will show up. And now you can pick hourly. So at the moment, they're giving you only last 14 days of data, and you can look back 30 days. That's basically what it is. So I would recommend everybody to just start downloading these reports like every 14 days, looking back 30 days, so that you can get enough data to kind of make your conclusions. Because one of the problems with acting on less data is that you might make the wrong decision, right? So it's always good to have data sufficiency, and for that reason, you might need to get more windows of time to examine and to stitch together, and then you have substantial data, and then you can draw your conclusion. Like, in statistics, they say that you need at least 30 data points before you can make a sample size that is reliable for extrapolation. So if you want to do extrapolation and not just do like one-offs, one-off based decisions, then you have to have data that is collected over time and stitched together, so that you can say with certainty that, yes, this is my pattern. And then patterns are things that you can actually rely on because they tend to repeat, right? When you look at your data, you'll see, with certainty, you can say that between this hour and this hour, over time, I've noticed that I do better, or this hour to this hour, I don't do as good. So that's the idea of getting this report downloaded. Next, what you want to do with that report is you want to plot it like this in the form of a heat map. Now, this was done very simply with Google Sheets. You can create some pivots. You can even ask ChatGPT for help to come up with the formulas. ChatGPT version 4, the paid version, can also actually do a lot of this stuff for you if you just upload your downloaded file and just say, hey, I want to create a heat map that shows me Monday through Sunday and hours of day. What formulas should I use? So you should be able to create that fairly easily with help from ChatGPT on your own. But anyway, we created this with some automation and stuff. Now, this actually shows me the hours of day where the spend is sparse, and these are the hours of day that is middle of the night, sorry. And this is just the spend chart, but we actually do this for spend, for sales, for conversion rate, and for ACOS. And then we compare all of those and see what are the times that we don't want to spend because it's wasted. It's kind of not converting as well, or ACOS is poor, CPCs are high. So you can make all those different heat maps and then come to your conclusions about what hours of day you want to tackle. Now, I would say if you're not comfortable with losing sales because you have very low search, let's say very, very low sales velocity, and you don't want to do any of this, that's fine. And maybe you can start with, just a very small band. You don't have to kind of say precisely that between 12 midnight and 5, I'm going to block these hours off. You can even just say, hey, my worst 2 hours in the day are 12 a.m. to 2 a.m., for example. So you don't have to kind of be extremely aggressive about it. You can start small and see the results, measure them, and then figure out what you want to do with that data, right? So don't be afraid to experiment, maybe just for an hour, and see what happens. Now, there's a few different ways to achieve day parting, and I'm going to explain those 3 ways. And there's no right or wrong answer, but we do have some suggestions and some recommendations for what kind of optimization to do for achieving day parting. So the first one, which a lot of people talk about, is bid adjustments. So the idea here is that in the best hours of the day, you keep your bids higher, and in the worst hours of the day, you lower your bids, like you bring them down quite a bit. Now, there is some pros and cons to doing that. I'll just come to that in a second. Let me talk about the next one. So the next way that people are talking about achieving day parting is by making budget adjustments. Extremely hard to do because Amazon budgets are set at the day level, and really by hourly adjustments, you're just going to be approximate about it. Like, I don't think it's easy for anybody to kind of do it precisely. And also, I'll explain the reason why it's not so easy. And then the third method is to basically pause your campaigns in those hours when you're not likely to get a good result, right? So now let's dive into the kind of challenges with each of these methods. So with bid adjustment, let's say you try to do bid adjustments. Let's say you lower your bid because it's really, the worst times of the day, you really bring your bids down. What happens with bringing your bids down is that it impacts your placement. So as you know, there's 3 placements. There's top of search, there's product pages, and there's rest of search. Those are the 3 typical placements on Amazon. There's also off Amazon, but let's not bring that in. Let's just talk about these 3 placements. So what happens is that each placement tends to be aligned with the bid band. So like if you're bidding super high, let's say you're bidding $3 to $4 per click, it tends to be more aligned with showing up substantially more on the top of search versus any other placement. And on the other hand, if you have a low bid, let's say 40 cents, 50 cents, something like that, that seems to never win top of search. It seems to be more aligned with, some of the other placements like rest of search or product pages. So what do you achieve by lowering your bids, it can actually have the effect of switching a placement instead of improving the result, right? So if your placement has switched from top of search, which let's say had a high conversion rate, and your product pages, let's say, had a poor conversion rate, well, now what you've done is you've promoted a high converting keyword into a very low converting keyword on the placement that gives you enough impressions and enough clicks, uh, but given the low bid, it gives you enough impressions and clicks, but the performance there isn't great. So your goal was to improve the performance, and now you ended up making it worse because it's showing up in the wrong placement. So that's just a challenge, because I wish Amazon gave us 3 different bids for 3 different placements, but they don't. They just give us one bid, and then we have to control how those things show up. So that's basically the challenge with the bid adjustment. Now, as you guys know, Amazon has also come out with their own bid automation or bid adjustment by day, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. And so that is also another option under bid adjustment, but also has a little bit of challenges. So I'm just going to defer that to the next slide. Next, let's talk about budget adjustments. So the challenge with budget adjustments is that it's not exactly followed by Amazon. Any kind of budget caps you're setting today are subject to some leeway. Like, you're not exactly spending the same amount that you're budgeting. So let's say your budget is um, uh, $40 a day, right? Amazon can actually change that amount from 40 to 80 and spend more on one day and make up on some other days. Well, that doesn't give us, control, because that's up to Amazon, like how they distribute the budget across the month to make sure that they stay within the total, 30 times whatever your daily budget was. That again is up to Amazon, and they might, who knows, they might, use more of your budget on the days when you don't want it to use more of your budget, like a Saturday or a Sunday or any other day of the week, depending on your business type. So then how do you control that, right? You can't control it. Now, like I said, the budget can actually go from 40 to 80 because by default, there's a setting in your account settings within sponsored ads that allows them to increase the budget by 100%. And that's the default setting, by the way. So if you guys haven't noticed it, I would recommend that you go there and change that to 25%. They only give you 2 options. One is 100%, the other one is 25%. So let's say let's say your budget is $100. With the 25% option, your budget will only go up to 125. But if it's set to the default, your budget can actually go up to $200. So that's the reason why, because this is not precisely followed by Amazon, it becomes a little bit messy to try to achieve day parting through budget adjustments. Now, the third option is campaign pausing in those worst hours of day or week when you're not seeing good results. Now, this does the job. However, yes, there's a chance that you will have lower sales because those worst hours were also bringing in some sales, even though it was like 1 or 2 sales in the middle of the night, but they were at like 200% ACOS or whatever. So yes, you will lose sales, but then would you rather lose those sales and use that money to, have better sales in a different time of day, or you still want that sale? That's up to you. It really depends on your business. It really depends on what phase, whether you're desperate for any movement or you have some sort of stability and now you're just looking to fine tune that and optimize that. So, like I would say, for us, campaign pausing has been great. It's actually helped to do the job. Like, we've been able to cut back on our spending in the worst hours and literally channel that amount to the best hours. And, it really does great. Now let me show you Amazon's, version of the schedule-based biddings. Okay, so where can you find this? You want to go inside your campaign settings, and within your campaign settings, you will see campaign bidding strategy right here. And this has 2 options. One is rule-based bidding, and the other one is other bidding strategies with scheduled rules. I would recommend not setting the rule-based bidding because it's kind of up to Amazon to change your bids throughout the day. I mean, this is not really an hourly bidding strategy. It's just overall Amazon gets to pick whatever time of day or night or whatever bids to keep your campaign performance within a given ROAS target. Now, they don't really do a good job on the downside. They might say, okay, to get you, like a better ROAS, they might just, increase your budgets and increase your bids in a certain way. But they won't bring it down, right? So that's a little clunky. So I would recommend not going there yet till they improve their logic. But if you go here in the other bidding strategies, you have to pick either down only or up and down or fixed. That's up to you, like based on, I mean, that's a whole another discussion about which of these you should be using. But let's say you chose down only, right? And then you have this add-on, which is with scheduled rules. So how does this work? You basically click on add schedule rule, and then you start, set a start date. And then you say recurrence is daily, and then hours of day. You can choose a start and end time for when this rule-based bidding will kick in, or schedule-based bidding will kick in. Now, you can tell Amazon to make a bid adjustment by a certain percentage, like let's say 20%, and then you want to give some name to it, like midday to increase by 20%. Now, the downside to doing this method is that Amazon only has the ability to increase your bids by whatever percentage you specify here. They don't have the ability to decrease your bids in the worst hours. So then how do you manage this? Well, the only way to manage this would be to lower your bids down across the board, like all of the keywords in that campaign. You'll first have to lower your bids and then apply a bid adjustment for a given time window. That's basically how the setup will work. Now, there's another challenge with this. Apart from the challenge of not being able to do negative bid adjustment, the other challenge is that let's say you want to combine this with some sort of software. Like let's say you have an optimization software running. Well, that's going to get pretty confused and it is going to not be able to work together with this. So you'll have to pick either this or that, because otherwise if you're going to do both, that's going to be confusing. You're going to get mixed results and all kinds of results, right? So that makes it pretty much like a manual thing. Then if you're using some sort of automation, you can no longer use that. And now you have to do everything through these rules, and it can get pretty cumbersome because, if you have 100 campaigns, well, then now you have to manage these schedules for all those 100 campaigns manually, right? There's no really good way of doing it. And another challenge is that if you lower your base bid to comply with this raised bid during the best hours, well, then there's a chance that that bid becomes so low that it doesn't even give you impressions. This doesn't even kick in at all because the bid has gone down to 10 cents or something. It's like applying one of those 900% modifiers on the 10-cent bid. It never worked, right? So that those things don't really work. So you've got to have like some sort of like reasonable base bid in order to apply like a reasonable bid adjustment. It can't be super precise or super targeted because it can vary, and you'll have to do a lot of like manual management of all of these different campaigns. So for that reason, I think that while Amazon did it made an attempt to try and support the idea of dayparting, their solution is still like half baked. It's still not like ready to be used reliably. But I'd be interested to see if anybody has tried it and has seen like good results. And maybe you have an SOP that's fantastic, and that's kind of given you the ability to do this at scale. But in any case, like I mentioned earlier, the option that we picked was this one. the campaign pausing option. And even within our software, we have been testing the campaign pausing option. So basically, it's that heat map that you download from Amazon. You basically translate that into our system, and then just mark all of the hours of day that you want your campaigns to run or want the campaigns to be off. And then we also have another layer of participating campaign, because sometimes you want certain campaigns to be excluded from any kind of pausing. You want them to run all day and night. For example, a branded campaign, like you want always to be found. And so you don't really care if the branded campaign is achieving its goal throughout the night, day, whatever. And you're managing that through setting campaign level target ACOS, well, then you can exclude that from the campaign pausing rules, and then just let them run all day, all week. Now, let me show you some of the results based on what we did. So we typically started, running Dayparting around November. And this is the before and after in terms of just pure ACOS, right? I'm just measuring pure ACOS. So if you can see here in this first case, there was an average of 20% ACOS throughout the week. And then on the weekends, it was like touching 40%. Now, we kind of did pretty aggressive day parting on the weekends to get rid of like the spend on these days. Um, and then we also shaved off some of the hours that we had the worst performance during the week. And these are the results. So as you can see, the entire account has come down below 20%. So you're seeing every day that we're doing better than we were before. Plus, if you notice, the weekends performance is also, so much better. Like it's actually closer to the 20%, even lower than the 20% mark that I showed you, actually right here, that was happening prior to us running this test. So we've done it for a bunch of clients now, and we're seeing good results. And that's basically my kind of recommendation to try do campaign pausing. Start with downloading your report from Amazon, finding out the worst hours of the day, blocking those off, and then testing it. You can test with like a very small window of pausing, so that you don't boil the ocean, right? We don't want to like kind of go all in or not. Let's do it like step by step and see how it can improve your overall performance. I guess there's one last thing to mention before we wrap up, which is the hourly data that comes from Amazon. I also have an opinion about that I'd like to share. Now, of course, these opinions do evolve over time, and I'm talking to a lot of people to try and see what the best kind of combination of strategies might be. But let me talk about the hourly data that comes from Amazon Marketing Stream, which gives you you know, after every hour, it'll tell you, hey, in the previous hour, you had like 45 clicks and no sales or whatever. So it's telling you in almost like a real time, on a real time basis, it's telling you what happened in the previous hour, or let's say the previous hour had a very high ACOS or whatever. Now that is actually very unreliable data, only because attribution delays happen all the time. So if you're trying to react too soon, you might have trouble, because those hours or that hourly data is going to just make it very hard for you to make the right judgment. First, because the data will be insufficient. You don't have like days and days and days and weeks and months of data to detect a pattern. You're just reacting to just 1 hours of data, 1 hour's worth of data, which is just the opposite of the statistical sanity of having enough data to make a decision. You're basically saying, I'm just going to do it on 1 hour's worth. That's actually uh, quite dangerous unless we pair it with something else, unless we also say, hey, we're going to look at the hourly data and we're going to look at historical data. That still makes sense, because then you can say, okay, this is in line with our historical, but you can't do that manually. You need some special, super special software, and I know that can get a little challenging. So anyway, so those were my thoughts on the hourly data as well. Still not a very reliable way, unless you pair it with the historical way, in which case you might as well use the historical way that I recommended through campaign pausing. You don't really need anything fancier than that to come to those almost same conclusions about which hours of day you should be prioritizing. So yeah, that brings me to the end. I mean, if there's any questions, I'm available on this email address, and I'm also active on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions, want to have a chat, feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to engage and have any further conversations around day parting.
Thank you so much, Ritu. Was super interesting to hear you or listen to you and learn from you regarding to the tape parting. And I have to admit, I took my phone for a second, so I wasn't looking at the screen and your presentation. And I had to open the video and I had to like it because the way how you were explaining the day parting strategy so effortlessly and in such a good way that it's actually easy to understand and follow you along. That's really a skill. And we also got already comments saying that's very useful so far in the middle of the presentation. So thank you so much. So a few things now. If you're watching us live right now and you really enjoyed what Ritu was explaining as well, just as I did, and you didn't yet like this video, then please do that and support us and Ritu as well, so we could bring more videos like this to you in the future. And as Ritu mentioned in the very end, you usually go to events and talk with a lot of sellers and other experts. And that's kind of the good way how to stay on top of everything. And before we go to a few very good questions which we received from the live audience, I wanted to actually highlight that European-based Amazon sellers, you have a chance to meet Ritu very soon in person in Europe, and also US-based sellers. If you're interested in learning more how to sell better on the European marketplaces, then there's something for you as well. So let me just take 1 minute to share my screen. So I want to introduce you the European Seller Conference, which is our main event, which we organize in Europe with the Orange Klik team. It takes place in Prague, Czech Republic, from March 13th to 16th. And this event is all about helping experienced and established sellers to grow even further, to go beyond the first millions, which you have already achieved. And just a quick overview of the event. It lasts around 3-4 days. So we start with the VIP day on the March 13th, where Ritu is also actually one of the VIP experts, meaning she will be leading small mastermind sessions with the most experienced sellers attending the event. And then on March 14th and 15th, this is when the main event magic takes place. This means basically 2 days full of very actionable presentations from different speakers, just like Ritu and others. I'm going to introduce some others in a second as well. And then we're going to finish the event with an advanced workshop. This year, it's held by Chris Rawlings, and it's called the Brand Transformation Workshop, which means you will go into all of the growth strategies needed to grow your business further. And as you can see, Ritu is here, Tim Jordan will be here from Carbon 6, Tomer Rabinovich, Leo Scovio, and many, many other sellers, experts from Europe, from US, and from Canada as well. So hopefully you're going to join us as well. And actually, Ritu, it will be your first time at our event, right?
Yes, I am so excited. Like I haven't been to Europe since, gosh, I was a kid. So I'm really excited to, come to Prague and, be at your event. I wanted to come last year, honestly, but something didn't work out. So I'm so glad it's going to happen this time.
So yeah, definitely. If you want to learn more from Ritu, then join us, because you're actually gonna present very interesting topic about also data and how to build data pipelines to even more connect all of the different data points you can get out of Amazon right now. So definitely worth to come, even just for your presentation. But okay, let's go to the questions then. So let's go over where do you find the chart or the information for time of day spent or day of a week spent?
Yeah, so I think it'll be best if I share my screen because I do have a
go ahead.
slide there. Okay, so I'll share my screen. So it's this one here.
And go full screen as well if you can.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Fran, basically you want to go into your advertising reports and then you want to pick sponsored products. And then after that, you want to pick campaign, and then this will show up, and then you click on hourly, and then you pick the last 14 days of data. So that's basically how you can download it. Once you download it, I would recommend collecting at least, 3 sets of data. Like, so after 14 days, you do it again, and then you do it again. Then you have enough data, you stitch that all together into one jumbo, report. And then you use Google Sheets or Excel, whatever you prefer, and then translate that information into a chart like this. You can do this through like pivot tables or through certain formulas. And you can also ask ChatGPT to help you with those formulas and build a heat map like this. So this is the way to find out what's the best and worst hours. You can also create these heat maps for different attributes. Like you can do it for ACOS, you can do it for conversion rate, for CPCs, because all of that data is right in that hourly report that you download from Amazon. All of that information is already there.
Okay, so just to then follow up with a question from Joseph. So he says, "Hi from New York. Where can I see how my PPC conversion is doing by hour? Is there a report for that?" So I understand you get the same information from there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same information, Joseph. It's just that you will need to add a conversion rate column, because Amazon does not generally provide conversion rate in their report. They do provide it for certain reports, but the campaign report, you will have to create a calculated column that's basically orders divided by clicks, and that's your conversion rate. So you can plot that in the heat map, and that's how you can get conversion rate by the hour of day.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So Fran is also asking, can you preset campaign pausing?
So you need software for that. That's what I was sharing earlier, that's what our PPC Ninja software is currently testing. We haven't rolled it out to everybody yet, but we've got a bunch of brands that are testing it out. So you do need some sort of software to go in every hour and turn off those campaigns that you've selected, right? You can also choose which campaigns won't participate in Dayparting so that they can run all day, all night, So you do need software for that.
Okay, so Fran is saying also thank you for all of the answers you are providing. So another question from Abdul: does day parting affect organic ranks?
So the number one signal for organic ranking is conversion rate. So if you improve your day parting results, by improving your overall conversion rate, which it will improve in this with this method, because you're not gonna you won't have the worst hours of the day when the conversion rate is poor, impacting your overall day conversion rate. And so that will, in theory, it should improve your organic ranking as well. So that's actually a really good point that you mentioned, Abdul, because I hadn't added that to my slides. So yeah, that's a great point, that the added benefit of doing day parting is that you improve your overall conversion rate, which then improves your organic ranking.
Okay, thank you. So, can you see any of these trends or information before I launch a new product or somebody launches a new product?
No, it is very specific to each product, and in fact, this is not something that's published. Or if you want just a general idea of like what the trends are, you'd probably have to look at some of the some of the bigger players in the market who've published certain reports. But I wouldn't trust that either. I would use our own data to figure out how it can help us. So your product might be very different from anybody else's. So I wouldn't recommend going after like general trends. But yeah, 14 days of data is all you need actually to start seeing some information, and then you just layer on that.
Okay, thank you. So, can you share some or any mistakes sellers make regarding the strategy, but sellers could actually avoid if they know about it in advance?
Yeah, so yeah, I think some of the examples I shared with trying to do it, trying to do day parting by just using bid adjustments, that could change the placement in which your keywords are showing up. So instead of showing up at the top of search where you want it to actually show up, it might start showing up at the product pages or rest of search placements, and that way it could end up being the opposite, of what you wanted to achieve, right? Instead of improving the performance, you might end up, worsening it. So just be aware of like using those other strategies. And then I also shared about budgets. If you're trying to use budgets as a way of controlling day parting, again, that could be off because Amazon doesn't really stick to their budget caps. They can actually go above, they can actually double the budgets in real time because they have the leverage to do that. There's a setting inside of your campaign manager. If you go in there and look at the setting, you can find out whether Amazon has the right to do 100% more of your budget or 25% more. I would say set that to 25% regardless as soon as possible.
Mhm. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Ritu, for the presentation and also for answering all of the comments. So again, if you didn't like the video yet, but really enjoyed what we were discussing today here about day parting, then definitely like this video and also subscribe to our Orange Click YouTube channel to see more videos and webinars like this in the future. And again, if you're watching us from Europe, you're experienced Amazon seller, you have a chance to meet Ritu in person in March in Prague, Czech Republic. So from the video description below, you will also get the website of the event so you can learn more about how the event works, who are the speakers, and how you could join us as well. And also, if you're a US-based seller and you're already selling on European marketplaces or would like to expand to Europe anytime soon, this event is a very good place where to be because there will be around 200 people from 40 different countries all across from Europe, and there's like no better place to learn about expansion to Europe than this event. So yeah, Rita, I'm very looking forward to see you in person as well. And thanks again
Yeah.
for today, and see you soon then.
Thank you so much, Lisette. See you soon. Take care. Bye, guys.
And now I would like to invite you to watch a video I recently recorded about European Sales Conference where I'm walking over how the event works, why it's important to be there if you want to network with other sellers, and what's actually the real benefits of being together with experienced sellers for a couple of days in a row so you could establish very important relationships which would help to scale your business beyond the first millions.